Hello class. So we would like to look at the review questions for the midterm or quarter exam coming up. Alright, so let us try to look at the first one first. Here we have two given functions and we are looking for f of g of 1/2. Now, then how to approach this one? This in fact is equal to f of g of 1/2. I can rewrite it in this way. Now then you will realize what is g of 1/2. That basically means when you look into this one under this function, in place of x we have 1/2. So let us try to calculate that first. So what is g of 1/2? That's simply equal to 1 over, instead of x we're going to put 1/2. Then when you look into the 1 over 1/2, if you want to put this one into a calculator, you could have done it this way: 1 divided by 1/2. Now, if you do it this particular way, then you will realize that you're not going to get the correct answer. Watch this one. You're going to get 0.5. In fact, the answer is not 0.5. What we should have done is from the same expression, we had to close it up with the parentheses to indicate that 1/2. Second 1/2, in fact, was denominator. Here it goes. Now, then you will realize 2 would have been the correct answer. So here, this becomes 2. That means this is equal to f of 2. Now, when we go to the function f, in place of x, we're going to put 2. Then what we end up getting is 4 times 2 minus 2 squared. This becomes 8 minus 4 becomes our final answer. Number 2. So here we have a population of the rabbit doubles every 60 days according to the formula that's given here. Now, in these kind of questions, formulas are already given. So all we have to do is identify what each variable represents. Here, for example, t and p, where it says p is the population of the rabbit, and on day t, t means the day. So then the question is, what is the value of t when the population is 320? Now, in this case, what we could have done is, here we get 320, it's equal to 10 times 2 to the t over 60 power. Now, first, what we could have done is, given that at this point, even though there are a few different ways for us to tackle this question, but what you could have done here was plug in these values in place of t and see what happens. For example, if I were to try to go for number 1, what I could have done was this: 10 times 2 to the, if I were to use 240, what I could have done was 240 divided by 60. Will this in fact give me 320? In fact, this one didn't. So what I could have done was, okay, let me try to go for another number. Instead of 240, next one was 300. 300. And it got me the answer. Therefore, it seems to be that our answer is 300. That's the first way of doing it. If you don't like just using the calculator and plug-in method, which I personally don't like it that much, we'll learn about how else we could have done it later using something called logarithm. But for now, that's one way. Second way would have been, when you divide by 10 on each side, then we'll realize that 32 is equal to 2 to the t over 60 power. Wait a minute, 32 and 2, we will realize that 32 is in fact 2 to the 5th power. So I can rewrite this one as 2 to the 5th power, which is equal to 2 to the t over 60 power. Then here, as you can see, the bases are equal, so 5 must be equal to t over 60. Then here, putting it over 1, cross multiplication, t must be equal to 300. So this will be the second way of solving it. It happened to work because we are able to get common bases. Now, so that was number 2. Which relation is not a function? So in fact, if I were to rewrite this one is in fact a quadratic function, quadratic expression, which will get us a function because y is by itself, and then we have x squared. In other words, this is y equals negative x squared minus 4x plus 4. So as you can see, this is simply a concave down parabola. Here it's a line if I have to subtract x from each side. This, in fact, is called hyperbola. Y equals 4 over x. If you are curious how the graph would have looked like, you can actually sketch them. 4 over x. Now zoom standard, number 6. As you can see, it will pass the vertical line test. So that's okay. Only thing that will not be a function is choice 1, because this is in fact equation of a circle. X has been squared and y has been squared with the plus sign in the middle, where center is what? 2, 0. That's the center, isn't it? And then radius is equal to 2. So this will not be a function because it's in fact a circle. For one value of x, it's not going to have just one value of y. It could actually have two values. All right, number 4. What is the solution set? As you can see here, we gotta have the common basis. So 4 is equal to 2 squared. So if I have to rewrite it in that way, then I can distribute 2 into these two terms. So we end up getting 2 to the 2x squared plus 8x equals 2 to the negative 6. Then these two exponents has to be equal to each other. So we get 2x squared plus 8x must be equal to negative 6. By adding 6 to both sides, we get 2x squared plus 8x plus 6 equal to 0. We realize the common factor is 2, so by factoring out common factor here, x squared plus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now once you factor this one out, then we get 2, and here x plus 3 times x plus 1. Those are the two factors, which will get us x must be equal to negative 3 from this factor, and then here negative 1. So those two becomes our answer, which is choice 3. Now, in this case, it's a little bit modified question from exponential functions, but let's look at it. As you can see, each time it's becoming 1/3 of the previous term. So in other words, first term was 54, second term was 1/3 of 54, third term was, okay, let's write it first term, second term, third term is 1/3 of another 1/3 of 54. That's how we get 6. Fourth term in this case would be 1/3 to the what? Third power, because we will have one more of them from 54. As you can see the pattern, you see we're going to have 1/3 to a certain exponent. But how many 1/3 do we have? We realize it's always one less than the placement of the term. So therefore, we're going to have 1/3 and then 54, which means, I guess, C number 3 or number 4, but exponent has to be always one less than the term itself, so we gotta have n minus 1. So choice 4 would have been our answer. Number 6, at this point, what we can do is this. We can try to put each one into the calculator and then see what happens. That's one way. Another way is this. Once you, as you plot this one, as you plot the exponential function, then we're going to get a function that looks somewhat like this. But it has been reflected about the y-axis. If something has been reflected about y-axis, then what happened? Y value stays the same, but x value has been negated. So in fact, y will be equal to some sort of base. I don't know what the base is. Let me call it as b. To the x has to be going into y to the y equals b to the negative x power. But in this case, this will be equal to 1 over b to the x power, or which is equal to 1 over b to the x power. Any one of them would be fine. But for now, what we could have done is just simply plug in each function and then see which one of them gets us this function, this value. So let me try to do that for you. So first one is 5 to the x power. Graph it. Then as you can see, the curve goes this way. So that's not it. How about number 2? It's a 0.5. Oh, it does look like what's given. So I'm going to just keep this one for a second. Seems to be a good answer. And then 5 to the negative x. So that was choice number 3. And in fact, this one seems to be pretty nice too, coming down this way. And then the last one, just to let you know, .5 to the negative x power. It graphs in the other way, so that doesn't quite cut it. Now, but then how are we going to get it? You see, we have to look at a couple of values. For example, here, that's one great value. When x equals -1, y value has to be equal to 2. So between 2 and 3, which one of them gets us that? For example, if I have x equals -1 here, 0.5 to the -1 power, in other words, that's equal to 1/2 to the -1 power, which is equal to negative exponent here means we can just get the reciprocal of it, then we'll simply get 2. And do I get 2? That seems to be correct. So the second one seems to be our answer. Good. How about this one? 5 to the -1 power simply becomes, or negative to the 5 to the negative of -1 power. That means 5. Instead of 2, we should be getting 5, which is way up here. But that's the graph doesn't reach that far, so therefore number 3 will not be the correct answer. All right, let's look. Let's go for number 7. Here, this basically means we need to find the inverse of this function. So let's try to get started. So first step, we're going to put it y equals x squared minus 6. Then to get the inverse, we're going to switch x and y. So we're going to have x equals y squared minus 6. By adding 6 to each side, x plus 6 is equal to y squared. To have y by itself, we're going to take the square root. That means y is equal to plus or minus square root of x plus 6. That becomes our answer. But if you wanted to make that into a function, because this is not a function, because we're going to, for one value of x, we're going to get 2 y values. So you could write it as just positive portion. That would have been also accepted. Or you could have just taken the negative portion only. That's also fine too. Any one of these 3 becomes correct answer in this case. Alright, so here, similar to the earlier question, we just have to plug in -3. This basically means g of f of -3. So let's try to calculate the inner value first. F of -3. That means in place of x, I'm going to put -3 over there. Notice that I put the parentheses squared minus 6. That becomes 9 minus 6, which is equal to 3. So I got to put 3. So now I'm getting g of 3. 3 has to be in place of x, which basically means 2 to the 3 power minus 1. But 2 to the 3 power is equal to 8. Minus 1 becomes 7. So that becomes our answer. Number 9, what is the domain of the function? When they say domain, we're talking about the x value. So I want you to look at what is the least x value that we have in this graph. It goes down right over here, which is -1. What's the maximum x value that we have? Way up here, which which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our domain goes from -1 through 6 inclusive, because as you can see, it's a closed circle. But we have two values, but domain is all about x, so therefore our answer will be choice 1. Which function is one-to-one? The fact that we have one-to-one function, that means it has to pass the vertical line test and also horizontal line test. So just to help you understanding, what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph each one of them. I know that it's not the most effective way of doing it, but for now we'll just do it that way. But if you know how each one of these functions sort of look like, then you don't even have to graph it. You can just get the answers in a matter of seconds. But for now, we'll just do step by step here. First one is x squared plus 2. Oops. So once you graph it, that's the first one. As you can see, it will pass through the vertical line test, but oops, horizontal test, it will not pass. Number 2. This one has to be cubed now. How about this one? It will pass the horizontal line test and also vertical line test. So therefore, choice 2 becomes our answer. Let's look at number 3 just to let you know. I'm gonna go for the absolute value here of x. Oops. Once again here, this is third one. It's not going to pass through the horizontal line test. So in fact, number 4 will look somewhat similar to number first one, and then it's not going to pass the horizontal line test. So therefore, our answer will be choice 2. Number 11, formula for continuously compounded interest rate. So as you can see, the formula is already given to us. A is the amount, the money in the account. P is the initial, sometimes it's called principal. R is the rate, and T is the time. So for this question, kindly they gave us the formula already. Now, to the nearest dollar amount in the account, 8 years, if this much money has been invested for the annual rate of 3%. So basically what we're looking at is A is equal to P, first initial amount, which is 750, and then times E to the R is the 3%, so which is 0.03, and 8 years, so I'm gonna put A in place of T. That's basically what we can do. So here then we get 750 times E is right over here, second ln, then that's what we end up getting, and 0.03 times 8. Then here, this is what we end up getting. They want us to put it to the nearest dollar, so we end up getting 9.53. That becomes our final answer. Here, what is the domain? Domain is the x value, so it starts from -4 and up. So x value has to be from -4 and up, but since it's closed circle, it has to be choice 2. But just to check, how about y? Y is the range. The minimum value was 2, and then it has scope, and then you can see that we can confirm that that is our answer here. Number 13. Here we have to have the same basis. Same common base in this case would have been 3, so we have 3 squared, so the 3x plus 1 Second one is 3 to the third and x plus 2. Then here we get 3 to the 6x plus 2, which is equal to 3 to the 3x plus 6. Having the exponents to be equal to each other, so we get 6x plus 2 is equal to 3x plus 6. By subtracting 3x, we get 3x left. By subtracting 2, we get 4 left. So you can try to do that one at a time if you want to. And divide by 3, then x then will be equal to 4 over 3, which is choice number 4. Number 14. You see the minimum point on the graph used to be this one. When x was equal to -1, y happened to be -3. What is the minimum point on the graph? You see, if you look at from the original expression to the new equation, what happened? We end up having 5 has been added to the expression. The fact that 5 has been added, that means moved up by 5 units. That means our lowest point used to be -3, but it has moved up by 5 units. That means that exact point would have been -1, comma, adding 5 to -3, which will be equal to 2. So that will become our new minimum point, which is choice 1. Similarly, composition of functions with a known value, such as 4 here. So let's try to calculate. This basically means g of f of 4. So let's try to put f of 4 first. What is f of 4? We have to put 4 here, then we get 1/2, and 4 minus 3. Then 1/2 of 4 becomes 2 minus 3, which is equal to -1. So this can be rewritten as g of -1. So once you plug in -1 in place of x for g function, then we get 2 times -1 plus 5. That becomes -2 plus 5. Our final answer becomes 3, which is choice 3. Now the last question, number 16. You see, this is the given function, f of x. But notice that we have added 2 to the x value. What does that mean? It looks like moving to the right, but in fact, in case of x, we have to move to the opposite direction, in a way that this has to move to the left by 2 units. The reason is this x, because in order for them to have same y value, this x has to compensate for adding 2. That means this x value has to be less than the previous one by 2 to compensate for plus 2. So that means which one of these 4 pictures shifted this graph to the left by 2 units? Choice 2. And that concludes our review questions. And have a great day. Bye.